So welcome everybody to this latest video on 160 Maths. In this video we'll be going over the AQA GCSE Maths November 2017 Higher Paper 3, which is a calculator paper. Now we'll put a copy of the link, a link to the copy of the paper rather, in the description below for you to have a attempt at if you've not had a go at before watching this video as we go through the answers. And I'll also include, as always, a copy of the grade boundaries and the overall grade boundaries for this series of GCSE papers. So let's get started on this AQA GCSE Maths November 2017 Higher Paper 3, which is the calculator paper. So looking at question 1, which involves inequalities, it says circle the inequality shown by the diagram. So here we're looking for a more than -4 and a less than equal to 5, which is our last option. Then with question 2, it says y is 100% more than x. Circle the ratio. Well, if x is 100% more, then that basically means if x is 1, then y is going to be double that, which is 2, which gives us our third option. Then with question 3, it says which the first four terms of a sequence are -10, -8, -6, -4. Circle the expression with the nth term of this sequence. So you can see that we're adding 2, which means then we're going to have 2n. And then what do we need to do to get from 2 to -10? Well, we need to take away 12. So that gives us our fourth option. Then moving on to question 4, it says circle the equation of the line that is parallel to the x-axis. So if you imagine this is the x-axis, so we're looking for a line that looks like this. And so the only one is going to be y equals -5. And obviously -5 therefore would be here. But again, it's still parallel to the x-axis. Then for question 5, it says multiply out and simplify. Now with this question, always make sure that you recognize that this is a double bracket. And once you've established this double bracket, we then expand the brackets, which gives us something like this, and not 16, it gives us 64. And gives us the final answer of x squared minus 16x plus 64. Then with question 6, it says show that 268 can be written as a sum of a power of 3 and a square number. Now for this, what you want to probably do first is write down the powers of 3. So here we've got 3 to the power of 1, which is 3. Then we've got 3 squared, which is 9. 3 cubed, which is 27. Know what number I was going for there. And then 81. And again, if I keep using my calculator, and what I want to do is I'll write down all the ones that go up to 268 because I'm going to be adding. Then if I go for my square numbers, I want to go for 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, and I could carry on. So what I'll do now, I personally would start with powers of 3. So simply just do 268 minus a power of 3, and then see if the answer gives you a square number, which you should be able to spot more sort of notably than a power of 3. Now the correct answer you should have is 243 plus 25. And writing that as powers of 3, we've got 3 to the power of 5 plus 5 to the power of 2. Or 5 squared. Now you can write your answer either as powers of 3 and a square number, or you can write it as 243 plus 25, and that should give you the second mark. Then with question 7, it says here is some information about the time taken by 40 people to fill in a form, and it says circle the class interval with the median. Well, if we've got 40 people, then the median position is going to be the 20th person. And which group does the 20th person fall into? Well, it falls into the 10 to 15 category. Then looking at question 8, it says work out the angle of x, and this is what we then need to do. So in terms of this, now with these questions, you need to remember that you are allowed to show your working out on the diagram. So looking at this triangle here of ABP, we can see that there is an isosceles triangle, which therefore means that this angle here is going to be 51, and this angle here is going to be 180 minus 51 minus 51, which gives us 78 degrees. Now from this, what we can then also spot that with it being a parallelogram, that with the diagonals, we've got two sets of parallel lines. Now that is a really bad line for me to draw. But what you should be able to note is that as this line is parallel to this line, that we then have a alternate angle. So all of this angle here must be the same as this angle here. So this angle here equals 3x. Now if I take this triangle here of x, that's just one example. So looking at that pink triangle, what I've got is I've got 3x plus x plus 78 all add up to 180. So from this I've got 4x plus 78 equals 180. So 4x equals 102. So x is going to equal 25.5 degrees. Then moving on to question 9, it says rearrange, and we've got this equation we then need to rearrange. We want to make t the subject. So here I've got get rid of the u first and then get rid of the a. Now the key thing to remember is that we need to divide everything by a. So t equals v minus u over a. Try not to write it like this, because obviously if you write this, then it just basically means that u and the a are being divided, not the v. So do not write it like that. Then with question 9b, it says complete the table with consistent metric units. So here we're looking units if distance is measured in meters or miles and time is measured in seconds, then the speed will be measured in meters per second, or you can write meters second to the power of minus 1. And for acceleration, that's meters or miles per second squared, or again you can write it as ms to the power of minus 2. Then moving on to question 10, it says construct locus points that are the same distance from points A and B. So what we need to do here is a perpendicular bisector. So for this, you're going to need your compass. And again, for this, what we're going to need to is with your compass, I'm just do a really bad sketch of what your compass will look like. And there is the pin. Now you want to set your distance between your pin and your pencil so that it's more than halfway between the 2 points, between A and B. Now it doesn't matter what they are, as long as they're more than halfway, then that's fine. You put the pin on A, and then what you then do is you draw an arc in between A and B. Now the next thing you then do is do not adjust your compass, put the pin this time on B, and then draw an arc in the middle. You should end up with something that looks like this, and what you should find is you've got two intersection points, and then what you then want to do is draw a dotted line or a dashed line between those two arcs, and then that would be all this, anywhere on that line would be equidistant from A and B. Moving on to question 11, it says 42 men and 38 women visit a restaurant. 44 of these people have a voucher. 3 times as many men as women do not have a voucher. Complete the frequency tree. Now for this, what we need to do is just zoom out so we can see what information we've got and filling all of this in. And let me just try and get everything all on the screen, which I think I've just about got it there. So from this, what we then need to know is that the total number of people is going to be 42 plus 38, which is 80. So this number here has got to be 80. Now we know in terms of this first bit that we know that 44 of these people have a voucher. So that's going to be 44, and 80 take away 44 gives me 36. Now the next thing I then need to do is use this information. It says that 3 times as many men as women do not have a voucher. So 36 do not have a voucher. And we've got the ratio of men to women of this 36 as being 3 to 1. So here 36 divided by 4 gives me 9. So therefore then I've got 3 times 9, which is 27, and 1 times 9, which is 9. So that means that in terms of the men and the women, that's going to be 27, and that is going to be 9. Now to work out these, well, we know that there's 42 men. So then if 27 do not have a voucher, to work out this one here, just got to do 44, take away 27, and that gives me an answer of 15. And then to work out how many women are left, well, we know that there are 38 women. 9 do not have a voucher, so it's going to be 38, take away 9, which gives me an answer of 29. So looking at question 11b, it says that a voucher takes 15% off the bill. After using the voucher, the bill for the meal is £27.20. How much was the bill before using the voucher? Now this is basically reverse percentages. So what we need to do is look at the amount, which is £27.20, and the percentage, if we're taking off 15%, that means we're only paying 85. Now because we're dealing with reverse percentages, we need to divide rather than times, and if I type that all into my calculator, I should end up with the answer of 32. Now where the 3 marks come from is 1 mark for dividing by 0.85, and they're just getting, I think it's a very generous question, to be honest. Then with question 12, it says that the distance by road from Newport to London is 140 miles. Tom travels by coach from Newport to London. Let's just zoom in, and it has almost reset the page. Let's just go back to that question. Here we go. So the distance by road to Newport to London is 140 miles. Tom travels by coach from Newport to London. The coach leaves Newport at 1:30. He assumes that the coach will travel at average speed of 50 miles an hour. Use this assumption to work out the arrival time in London. So here we know that we've got, try not to write in highlighter, so we've got that time equals distance divided by speed. So from this, what we then want to work out is how long it's going to take to get from Newport to London. So from this, what we've then got is 140 miles divided by the speed, which is 50, and that comes up to an answer of 2.8 hours. Now 0.8 of an hour multiplied by 60, I type in, equals 48 minutes. So 2.8 hours equals 2 hours and 48 minutes. Now if I then start at 1:30 p.m, I need to add 2 hours and then add another 48 minutes. And then what time does that give me? Well, it's going to give me 4:18 p.m. Or if you want to write it in a 24-hour clock, 16:18. And there we go. Then with question 12b, it says, in fact, the coach has a lower average speed. How does this affect the arrival time? Well, it's basically the arrival time will be longer or later. So something along the lines of the fact that it's going to take you long, or you'll arrive later, or that the trip's going to be longer because you're driving at slower speed, will be absolutely fine. Then with question 13, it says, here is some information about the length of time cars stayed in the car park, and what it's asking me to do is to draw a box plot or box and whisker. So let's just double check we've got all the information. So I know the shortest time, I know the longest time, the lower quartile, but I know the median, but I don't know the upper quartile. Now the upper quartile is the lower quartile plus the IQR. So the interquartile range is going to be 2 plus 3, which is 5. So the upper quartile equals 5. So if I then mark these, so I've got my shortest time is 0.5. That's 0.5 hours. My lower quartile is 2. My median is 4. And my upper quartile is 5. And the longest time is 12. So then all I then need to do is to make this look like a box and whisker diagram. And again, I strongly recommend you use a ruler. You don't lose marks in terms of presentation, but it should look something that looks like that. Then with question 14, it says, in the Venn diagram, the total set represents 31 students in a class. C represents the students who have a cat. D is the number of students who have a dog. One student from the class is picked at random. Work out the probability that the student has a dog. So what we want to do first is, first of all, find the value of x. Now we know in terms of this that 6 plus 5 plus 2x plus x plus 2 has got to add up to 31, because that's all the people in the Venn diagram. Now it's not probability in the diagram, so it's just actual whole numbers. So looking at this, what we get is we get 3x plus 13 equals 31. So 3x equals 18, so x equals 6. So if x equals 6, then this is going to be 12 and this is going to be 8. So from this then, what's the probability that they have a dog? Well, it's going to be 5 plus 12 over 31, which gives us an answer of 17 over 31. Next question then says one student of the students has a cat and is picked at random. Work out the probability that the student also has a dog. Well, if they have a cat, I'm only looking at 11 students. So out of 11, how many of them have a dog? Well, it's going to be 5 out of 11. Then with question 15, it says circle the highest common factor of 6xy squared plus 4x cubed y. Now for this, what we want is the highest common factor of the numbers. So what's the biggest number that goes in 6 and 4? And that's going to be 2. I want the lowest power of x, which is x, and the lowest power of y, so I want y, and then just circle that option, which is the second one. Then with question 16, it says the function f of x equals x squared minus x cubed. Circle the value of f of minus 3. So if I just substitute minus 3 into this, so I've got minus 3 squared minus minus 3 cubed. And again, if you're going to type this into your calculator, make sure you're using brackets around the minus 3. But this is going to be 9. That's going to be minus 27. So it's 9 plus 27, which gives us an answer of positive 36. Then looking at question 17, it says that at a football game, the number of men to the number of women to the number of children is in the ratio of 13 to 5 to 7. There are 7,152 more men than women. Work out the number of children in the game. So here we can see that the difference between the parts, which is 8, so 8 parts equals, and it's the difference which is here, so 4152. So if I then work out what one part is by dividing by 8, I get that one part is going to equal 519. Then to work out the number of children, so here we've got 13 to 5 to 7, men, women, children. So all I need to do is then multiply that by 519, and that gives me an answer of 3633. Then looking at question 18, it says expand and simplify. So what we need to do here is pick which set we're going to expand first. Well, let's go for these double brackets first. So here we're going to end up with 6x cubed plus 15x squared plus 4x plus 10 minus, and then 6x times x squared gives me minus 6x cubed, and then plus 18x. Then from this, all I then need to do is simplify, so that's going to cancel with that, and then I can collect 4x with 18x, giving me a total of 15x squared plus 22x plus 10. Then moving on to question 19, which looks at circle theorems. It says A, B and C are points on a circle. CD is a tangent. Write down the size of angle X. Well, angle X is going to be the same as this angle here, so it's going to be 65. Why? Because it's an alternate segment theorem, or AST. Then for question 20, it says W is a positive number, X is 10% more than W, Y is 10% less than X. So again, to work these out, one thing you could, if you can't work it out straight away, well, the correct answer is the third option. But if you can't work it out, basically make up a number for W and then respectively work out the values of X and Y from it. So for example, if you imagine if W equals 100, then X is 10% more, which is 110, and Y is 10% less than X, so that's going to be 11. So 110 take away 11 is 99, and then you can then answer the questions from there. Then with question 21, it says n is a number as a product of its prime factors in index form. N equals 2 times 3 to the power 4 times y cubed. Work out 3n squared as a product of primes in index form. Give your answer in terms of y. So for this, what we need to do is we need to substitute this expression into this. So we've got 3 lots of n, which is 2 times 3 to the power of 4. Oh, don't know why I've put bracket there, so let's get rid of that. Multiplied by y cubed, and that's all squared. Now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to deal with the square first. I'm going to deal with this bit here, because again, remembering BIDMAS, we do powers first. So I've got 3. Now if I square everything there, I get 2 squared times 3 to the power of 8 multiplied by y to the power of 6. Now from this, what I then need to do is then multiply everything by 3. So I get 3 times 2 to x, 3 times 3 to the power of 8, and 3 times y to the power of 6. Now the reason why I've done this is because I want to keep the powers separate. So here, how many 2's have I got? Well, I've got 2 2's. How many 3's have I got? Well, I've got 1, 2, 8. So that's 10, 11. So that's 3 to the power of 11. And then how many y's have I got? Well, I've got 3 to the power 6 of them. So then there is my final answer. Then with question 22, it says here is a triangle, work out the length of PR. Now this is going to be using the cosine rule. So let's just write that down. So the cosine rule, and what the cosine rule is, a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. And again, the reason why I'm using this is because I'm finding a side. So substituting the letters in, this is my a, that's capital A, that's b, that's c. So I get x squared equals, and then 6 squared plus 9 squared minus 2 times 6 times 9 times cos of 120. Now I would always recommend that you put brackets around the 2 times bc cos a, just. And so x squared equals, and again if I substitute all that in, I get 171. So therefore x equals the square root of 171. Now it doesn't tell me how I want the answer written, so I can leave my answer as root 171, or I could simplify it as 3 root 19, or I could write it as a decimal, which is around about 13.1, and that's to 1 decimal place. Then moving on to question 28, it says Joe draws this graph to identify the region that are represented by, and then we've got our 3 inequalities. And the question says make 2 criticisms of the graph. So if I just zoom out just so that I can fill it all in. So one criticism is that the line of x minus 3 equals 3 should be dashed. So this line here should be dashed because it can't actually equal it. And also that Joe has labelled the wrong region of R. So actually it's this region here that he should have labelled. I have no idea what he's done there. Now with question 24, we just need to do a bit of ratio manipulation. So here it says that a to b is in a ratio of 6 to 4 and 10b equals 7c, and the question is asking us to work out a to c in its simplest form. Now for this, what we need to do is either convert a to b and 9 to 4 into a fraction, or in the same as writing it as an equation, or we need to convert 10b equals 7c as a ratio. Now it's not as simple as easy as just nicking the numbers or deleting the b's and the c's to get ratios, or adding a's and b's. It's just a little bit more complicated. So here, taking this first bit, we know that a to b equals 9 to 4. So a over b equals 9 over 4. So then what we've then got is, if we cross multiply, I get 4a equals 9b. So I've got written the ratio as an equation. Now with this, if I write 10b equals 7c, well, if I take this c over to this side and the 10 over to this side, I get b over c equals 7 over 10. Now if I then go to the reverse of dealing with this to get into a fraction, then I get b to c is equal to 7 to 10. Now, there's a couple of variations you can use to then work this out, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this and I'm going to use this. So what I've then got is I've then got A to B is equal to 9 to 4, and B to C is equal to 7 to 10. So if I then write A to B, B to C, so I get 9 to 4, 7 to 10. Now what I want to try and do is get these two numbers here the same. Now what's a common multiple between 4 and 7 is 28. So if I turn those two numbers into 28, I need to multiply this by 7 and this by 4. So which means then to keep the ratios the same or equivalent, I need to multiply this number by 4 and this number by 7, which then gives me 9 times 7, which is 63, and 10 times 4, which gives me 40. And so now, because the B's are the same, I can now compare the A's and the C's. So therefore, the ratio of A to C is going to be in the ratio of 63 to 40. Does that simplify? No. So there is my final answer. Now looking at question 25, it says liquid is leaking out of a container. The graph shows the depth of liquid for 60 seconds, and the question is saying use the graph to work out estimate for the rate of decrease of depth at 10 seconds. And it says it must show you're working out. Well, at 10 seconds, which is here, we can see that I need to work out the gradient at this point here. So I need to work out the gradient at this point. Now to work out the gradient at this point, what I need to do first is draw a tangent to that line. So again, it's really difficult with a curve, but if I just draw a tangent, and then what you then want to do is show that you're then working out the gradient of that tangent. So work out the gradient of the tangent drawn. Now there's several answers which you can have, all depends on the fact, but the fact that where you get your 3 marks is just your attempt. So one is you get 1 mark for marking at that point, 1 then for drawing a tangent, then working out the gradient. And I would say an acceptable answer for the gradient when you do the difference, remember it's the difference in y over the difference in x, and I would say any answer that's roughly between 0.4 to 0.6 should be okay to get the 3 marks. Then looking at question 26, so this is looking at algebraic proof. It says that a squared minus b is an identity to a plus b times a minus b. A plus b are positive whole numbers where a is bigger than b, and a squared minus b squared is a prime number. Why are a and b consecutive numbers? Well, the key thing with regards to explaining this is the fact that a squared minus b squared is a prime number. Now for a prime number, so for a prime number, its multiple, or one should say one of its multiples must be 1. So therefore either a plus b equals 1 or a minus b equals 1. And if this is the case, then a and b must, so if either when you add the numbers it's 1 or the difference between the numbers is 1, a and b must be consecutive numbers. And there we go. Then for question 27, it says ABCD is a square-based pyramid. The horizontal base ABCD has a length of 10 and a center M. Angle VMA is 90 degrees. Angle VAM is 68 degrees. We've got the volume of a pyramid here, and the question's asking me to work out the volume of the pyramid. So first things first, what I need to do is work out a couple of things. So I need to work out this, the perpendicular height. I know what a third is. I know that the area of the base, which is going to be 10 times 10, but I don't know what h is. Now, to do this, what I need to do first is work out A to C. Now, looking at this is going to be, and because it's a square, it's going to be a right angle triangle. And once you've established that it's a right angle triangle, that's 10, that's 10, that's A to C. And you can see that's going to be Pythagoras. So AC squared is going to be 10 squared plus 10 squared. So AC squared equals 200. So AC equals the square root of 200. Then what I then need to do is work out what A to M is, which is half of that. And that's going to be basically AC divided by 2. So that then equals root 200 all divided by 2. So then looking at this triangle, what I can then do is then step 3 is then work out H. And how do I do that? Well, if I take that right angle triangle out, so this is AM and that's V. This distance here I've now worked out as being square root of 200 over 2. And this angle here is being 68, and this is H, which is what I'm trying to work out. Now, not to get confused with H being the hypotenuse, I'm just going to label that as X. So here what I've then got is a trig question. So this is my adjacent, this is my opposite. So here what I've got is I've got tan 68 equals X over the square root of 200 over 2. So therefore, X equals the square root of 200 divided by 2 multiplied by tan 68. Now you may have already then worked out what root 200 over 2 is as a decimal, but I'm going to leave it as an exact value because it's not really a problem. But if I just work all of that out and then multiply that by tan 68, I get an answer that X equals 17.501 blah blah blah. So once I've got this, I can then work out what the volume is using this formula. So then step 4 is then work out the volume of the pyramid, which is going to be a third times 10 times 10, which is 100, times the perpendicular height, which I've now worked out as being 15.1, etc. Now I've still got that number on the calculator, so if I just multiply that by 100, multiply that by a third, I get my final answer as being 583.383566. Now you may have an answer that's slightly rounded to this or slightly different. That's only because you've used rounded answers, whereas I've used the exact values. So what I'm then going to do is just write this as 583.4, and it's going to be in centimetre cubed, and that's to 1 decimal place. Then moving on to question 28, it says that y equals p times q to the power of x minus 1. And it says that when y equals 10, x equals 1. And when y equals 0.3125, x equals 6. And the question is asking me to work out the value of y when x equals 3. So for this, what we need to do is find the formula. So find the values of p and q. So if I substitute the numbers in, well, if I know that this is the case, so when y equals 10, x equals 1, so what that then becomes is 10 equals p times q to the power of 1 minus 1. Now 1 minus 1 is 0, and anything to the power of 0 is, oh, I don't know why I've put 10 times, let's just get rid of that. So what that then becomes is 10 equals p times q to the power of 0. That then becomes 1. So therefore p equals 10. So that's one value found. Now when y equals 0.3125, x equals 6. So if I substitute that into the formula, I get 0.3125 equals p times q to the power of 6 minus 1. Now I know what p is because p is 10, so I can write 0.3125 equals 10 times q to the power of 5. I take the 10 over by dividing, so I get 0.03125 equals q to the power of 5. Then using my calculator, if I do the fifth root of 0.03125, that should equal q, so I get a q value of 0.5. Now using these two numbers, I can then substitute that into this formula. So what I've got is that the formula equals, and it's going to be y equals p, which is 10, times q, which is 0.05 to the power of x minus 1. Now using this, when x equals 3, y equals 10 times 0.5 to the power of 2, and if I type that all into my calculator, I get a value of y equals 2.5. And with question 29, it says here is a graph of y equals f of x, where f of x is a quadratic function. It says write down all the integer solutions of f of x greater than 0. So what I'm looking for is the values of x where it's above the x-axis. And I'm just looking for whole numbers of the y-ordinates. So that's going to be -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Now because it's got an equal sign, that's why it can equal 2, but I'm looking for these numbers here. And then finally for question 30, it's composite function. So what I want to do is you find out which function you want to substitute into what. So this, I'm substituting the g of x function, so I'm substituting this into wherever I see an x in f of x. So what that then becomes is I've got x over 3 plus 4. Well, if x equals this, what I end up with is 6x squared plus 3, all divided by 3 plus 4. Now, simplifying this here, I can divide everything by 3, so that then becomes 2, that becomes a 1, and that becomes a 1, leaving me with 2x squared plus 1 plus 4. Then combining these two things together gives me 2x squared plus 5, and I am done. Now we'll put a copy of the grade boundaries once you've marked your paper, so you can see what score you've got on this individual paper, and I'll also put, if you've done the other previous 2 papers, what the collective scores of this sort of series of higher GCSE papers will give you.